Beneath the dense emerald canopy of the Mesoamerican rainforest, the air grows heavy with the scent of damp earth, decaying leaves, and the sharp resinous perfume of copal. Shafts of golden sunlight pierce the gloom, illuminating a quiet clearing where the wild jungle seems to pause, yielding to a subtle, almost imperceptible order. This is not a landscape untouched by human hands, but rather one profoundly shaped by them in a language we have largely forgotten. Here, amidst the tangled roots and towering mahogany, lies the shadow of an ancient sanctuary. For millennia, indigenous communities across the globe did not merely forage for survival, but actively cultivated vast living pharmacies within the heart of the wild. These were the sacred healing groves, intentionally designed ecosystems where the lines between agriculture, medicine, and spirituality dissolved into a single unified practice. In the Maya lowlands, such spaces were sometimes known as the petcot, circular plots enclosed by low stone walls, hidden deep within the forest architecture. Within these protected boundaries, a staggering diversity of medicinal flora was nurtured with meticulous care. To understand these spaces, we must understand the discipline of ethnobotany, the study of how people of a particular culture and region make use of indigenous plants. Yet the ancient approach extended far beyond mere utilization. It was an early, masterful form of permaculture, a system of agricultural and social design principles centered around simulating or directly utilizing the patterns and features observed in natural ecosystems. The healers did not clear the forest to plant their medicine. They wove their medicine directly into the fabric of the forest. This integration created powerful engines of biodiversity conservation. A single sacred grove might harbor hundreds of distinct species, carefully layered from the deep-rooted tubers in the soil to the climbing vines ascending the highest canopy branches. Plants like the anti-inflammatory copal tree, the fever-reducing cinchona, and the pain-relieving willow were positioned according to their specific needs for light, moisture, and companion species. The grove functioned as a complex, interdependent community, mirroring the resilience of the surrounding jungle while concentrating its healing power. The architects of these spaces were the traditional healers, individuals who served simultaneously as doctors, botanists, and spiritual intermediaries. Their knowledge was not recorded in written texts, but encoded in the landscape itself and passed down through rigorous oral traditions and experiential apprenticeships. A healer's education required decades of silent observation, learning to read the subtle cues of the forest, the changing of the seasons, and the intricate life cycles of the plants. They understood that the potency of a remedy was inextricably linked to the health of the soil from which it sprang. These medicine forests were the beating heart of community well-being. They served as vital centers for traditional healing, where the physical ailments of the body were treated alongside the spiritual imbalances of the individual and the collective. The act of gathering medicine was never a simple extraction, but a ritual of reciprocity. Offerings were made, permissions were sought from the guardian spirits of the grove, and only what was strictly necessary was taken. This profound reverence ensured that the living pharmacy remained perpetually abundant. Modern archaeological evidence suggests that these cultivated forest gardens were far more extensive than previously imagined. Advanced remote sensing technologies, peering through the dense jungle canopy, have revealed vast networks of ancient terraces, raised beds, and managed forest corridors surrounding ancient Maya urban centers. What early explorers mistook for pristine, untouched wilderness was, in fact, a highly managed anthropogenic landscape. The very composition of the forest today, with its unusual concentration of fruit-bearing and medicinal trees, is a living artifact of this ancient cultivation. Soil core samples extracted from these regions tell a similar story. Pollen records preserved in the earth for centuries show distinct spikes in medicinal and edible plant species perfectly correlated with periods of human occupation. These records reveal a sophisticated understanding of forest succession. The ancient cultivators knew how to selectively thin the canopy to allow specific medicinal understory plants to thrive, manipulating the light environment without destroying the structural integrity of the forest. This ecological mastery was rooted in a deeply holistic worldview. To the ancient mind, plants were not inanimate resources, but living entities with agency, memory, and a vital life force. The sacred groves were understood as meeting places between the human realm and the divine, spaces where the profound interconnectedness of all life was made manifest. Health was not merely the absence of disease, but a state of harmonious alignment with the rhythms of the natural world. When a healer administered a plant-based remedy, they were not just delivering a chemical compound, they were imparting the concentrated vitality of the forest itself. The medicine carried the memory of the soil, the rain, and the sunlight, as well as the prayerful intention of the one who harvested it. This holistic ancient plant medicine addressed the patient as an integral part of the ecological web, recognizing that human flourishing is impossible in a degraded environment. The arrival of colonial forces brought a devastating fracture to this ancient paradigm. The profound, localized wisdom of the medicine forests was systematically marginalized, misunderstood, and often violently suppressed. The complex, multi-layered forest gardens were cleared to make way for monoculture plantations, replacing diverse, life-sustaining ecosystems with uniform fields designed solely for extraction and export. The sacred groves, once revered as the ultimate source of healing, were reduced to timber and arable land. With the destruction of the physical spaces came the erosion of the ethnobotanical knowledge that sustained them. The intricate understanding of plant synergies, the precise timing of harvests, and the spiritual protocols of reciprocity began to fade from the collective memory. This erasure represents an irreplaceable loss, not just of cultural heritage, but of vital ecological and medical data. The living libraries of the forest were burned before their contents could fully be understood by the wider world. Today, modern pharmacology relies heavily on the discoveries made by these forgotten healers. A significant percentage of contemporary pharmaceuticals are derived from plant compounds first identified by indigenous communities. Yet the modern approach is overwhelmingly reductionist. We isolate the active alkaloid, synthesize it in a laboratory, and discard the ecological context from which it emerged. We have taken the cure, but we have forgotten the holistic philosophy of care. The isolation of a single chemical cannot replicate the complex, synergistic effects of whole plant medicine, nor can it address the underlying environmental disconnection that plagues modern society. We are beginning to realize that the true power of the ancient healing groves lay not just in the specific plants they contained, but in the relationship they fostered between humans and the natural world. The ancestral method, once a whisper, now speaks to modern challenges. In response to escalating ecological crises, contemporary conservationists and agriculturalists are increasingly looking backward to move forward. The principles of ancient forest farming are being studied as viable models for sustainable agriculture and ecosystem restoration. By analyzing the remnants of the pet cot and similar structures worldwide, researchers are uncovering blueprints for resilient food and medicine production that actively regenerate, rather than deplete, the earth. This phenomenon was not isolated to Mesoamerica. Across the ocean, the ancient Mediterranean world harbored its own sacred groves, known as the temenos. These demarcated sanctuaries, dedicated to specific deities, functioned as strict nature reserves where cutting trees or hunting was strictly forbidden. Similarly, in the western Ghats of India, ancient sacred forests have protected vital watersheds and endemic medicinal species for millennia, surviving as islands of intense biodiversity amidst seas of modern development. These disparate traditions share a unifying principle, the recognition that human survival depends on the deliberate preservation of wild spaces. The sacred groves acted as genetic reservoirs, ensuring that rare and sensitive medicinal plants could survive periods of drought, disease, or overharvesting in the wider landscape. They were the ecological anchors of their respective regions, stabilizing soil, regulating local microclimates, and providing safe harbor for the pollinators essential to the broader ecosystem. There is a profound melancholy in standing within the footprint of a forgotten grove. The stone walls may have crumbled, consumed by the relentless march of roots and time, but the legacy of the healers remains written in the living biology of the space. The unusually high concentration of a specific medicinal vine or the presence of a rare healing orchid serves as a silent testament to the hands that once tended them. The forest remembers what humanity has forgotten. Recent studies in forest ecology reveal that these ancient sites continue to exhibit superior soil health and higher rates of carbon sequestration compared to surrounding unmanaged areas. The legacy of organic soil enrichment, the careful accumulation of biomass, and the fostering of deep mycelial networks created a foundation of resilience that endures centuries after the last human caretaker departed. The earth holds the memory of our best intentions. We are invited to view these lingering ecosystems not merely as historical curiosities, but as dormant seeds waiting for the right conditions to germinate once more. The concept of the medicine forest challenges our modern assumption that human presence is inherently destructive to nature. It offers a counter-narrative, proving that human beings are capable of acting as a keystone species, actively enhancing the biodiversity and vitality of the landscapes we inhabit. As we face the compounding threats of climate change, habitat loss, and global health crises, the relevance of this ancient wisdom becomes undeniably urgent. We cannot medicate our way out of an ecological collapse. The health of the individual is inextricably bound to the health of the biosphere. The ancient healers understood this fundamental truth, building their medical systems upon a foundation of deep ecological stewardship. To uncover the holistic power of these forgotten spaces is to recognize the necessity of reintegrating our own lives with the natural world. It demands a shift from an extractive mindset to one of reciprocity and reverence. We must learn to cultivate our own modern equivalents of the sacred grove, spaces where biodiversity is protected, traditional knowledge is honored, and the healing of the earth is recognized as the ultimate prerequisite for human healing. Imagine the profound quiet of those ancient sanctuaries, a silence broken only by the rustle of wind through a meticulously curated canopy. It was a space where the frantic pace of human ambition was subordinated to the slow, deliberate rhythms of botanical life. In that quiet, a deep dialogue took place between species, a conversation mediated by the healer, who listened more than they spoke, who observed more than they intervened. The loss of the ancient sacred healing groves is a profound tragedy, a severing of a vital artery connecting us to the wisdom of the earth. Yet, the blueprint remains. The plants themselves still hold their medicinal secrets, and the soil still remembers the touch of those who tended it with respect. The choice before us is whether we will continue to ignore this silent legacy, or whether we will humble ourselves to learn its lessons once again. In the end, the true forgotten power of the ancient sacred groves lies not just in the cures they provided, but in the profound sense of belonging they cultivated. They remind us that we are not separate from the wild, but an integral part of its unfolding story. By uncovering the holistic ancient plant medicine and its ecological context, we do not merely look to the past, we illuminate a path toward a more resilient, reverent, and deeply healed future.